Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or wherever you happen to be. Good day to you. This is the Space Junkies takeover here at this beautiful channel where we do this every morning, every Monday morning. So, how are you doing? We are bringing you some interesting topics today, together with my partner in crime, David. Hi, David. How are you doing?
Hello, Szabi. Hello, everyone. Yeah,
Hi.
we are here again, and we will cover a quite interesting topic. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, not only Starship and the latest happenings, but a bit different. But yeah, hopefully you will join us as many as possible, and I guess that's a good start
Mm-hmm.
for kicking off the show.
Yeah, just a little heads up. It's gonna be so this new topic is going to involve Robert Zubrin's idea how to make this conquering Moon and Mars a feasible project. We got some great information for you, so definitely stay tuned and watch the program till the end. So let's just not waste any more time.
Hmm?
Let's start it because there was some great events happening after the booster static fire test. I think they can put a tick mark next to ship 34 as well. Indeed.
Yeah, so SpaceX has done one more step forward in
Hmm.
towards the Flight 8. So the second stage has been tested as well. And it was, of course, done at the Messi's complex or Messi's test site or outpost. And it was kind of interesting test because that was the longest one to date. Because as we know, up from the S26, which was the first one which was tested here. After it, there were only regular tests here, about 5 or 6 seconds tests, so nothing special. But for now, that was the one of the main reason that was the Flight 7 um, mishap, let's say, where they have lost ship 33 kind of early in the ascending phase, and that's why they have implemented and they have tested it, and that's why it wasn't a regular short test, but it was about 56 or 50-second long, 57-second long. So
Hmm.
it was the longest one to date, as I mentioned. So yeah, the flame trench was roasted a bit, but as we can see on the nice flyover photos, it wasn't destroyed too much. So actually, at all. So it could withstand quite nice these almost 1 minute static fire,
Which is a
and
great achievement, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah, because compared to these 5 or 6 seconds test and this 56 second, it's totally not the same, and it gave answers on different questions. For example, they have a capacity of nitrogen and oxygen, and of course methane, about 1 minute, because otherwise, of course, they couldn't have done it I am without the tank farm capacity. So
Hmm.
that's another information we all know already.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, this video is incredible. I mean, we've seen some fantastic videos previously about static fire tests, but this one, it really is breathtaking.
Yep.
Close-ups underneath, and then these drone shots as they circle around. Yeah, it's incredible. I got another one from Starship Gazer. This is from a distance, but yeah, it looked amazing as well.
Mhm. So yeah, it wasn't at all a regular test, but as far as we know, the ship 34 has done it quite successful. So since then, it was taken back or rolled back to the production side for the last maintenance and preparation work for the Flight 8. Of course, we don't know what's the exact date of the Flight 8 yet, but as we just getting even closer and closer to the estimated time around beginning of March, then we will know maybe better, and we will know more information in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, currently there is no fixed date yet.
Okay, I got some nice photo of these two articles together. So in the front you can see ship 34, and in the background in Mega Bay 2 the ship 35, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's from the rolling back some in the recent days. And yeah, you can see the S-35, so the next ship, which will be maybe the first one which could be caught. So that's already done in terms of the main construction. And of course, they are preparing now for its first cryo test. But now the main focus is, of course, is on S-34, because it should make it should make the corrections in terms of the Flight 7, which wasn't a too successful one. So hopefully S-34, which will be even more successful as the previous ship. And yeah, that means that SpaceX has had to a new shipment. And these are the Starlink simulators. So these are not operational Starlink satellites, but as in case of the S-33, which couldn't, of course, deploy them because it was destroyed previously. But maybe the S-34 can deploy, because that will be a main and very important test, the deployment system, or the pass dispenser as nickname. So yeah, the new stack of the simulators is already there, and they will be loaded in a couple of maybe days in S-34. So we will keep an eye on it.
Just to stay with the ship topic for a second, this is a beautiful photo of ship 34 and a happy bunch sitting on this what is it called, transporter, the crab stand?
Crab stand, yeah.
Crab stand, yeah. So yeah, it's good to see some proud workers really being proud for their achievement, and hopefully this ship going to do what the previous one couldn't, and gonna get further, and hopefully going to successfully re-enter and land and do all the other things. Sounding like Kennedy for a second. Yeah, so not because it's easy, but because it's hard. So
Of
let's
course.
hope that they're gonna achieve those things.
Yeah.
I got a
Just
video.
Quick
Yeah, go
question.
first.
Quick question for this message topic,
Yes, please.
because I guess that's it for from Stephen Lewis. So will the flame
Hi,
trench
Stephen.
handle? Hi, Stephen. Yeah, and of course, hi everyone. So Stephen asks, will the flame trench handle 5.5 times as many Raptors? So if you mean the massive test site, it won't be needed, because boosters won't test at all on Messi's test site, but only on the launch site, either on pad A or pad B, which is still under construction. But after it will be ready, then of course they will use it for static fires as well.
As
So,
we know, Messi's is not going to be used for booster tests.
no, only for the cryo tests. So for the first round of the tests, but not for static fires. That's for sure, because they would need a much more and or much bigger flame trench. And as we see, or as we will see at pad B, it's a much bigger, and it's an upscaled version of the Messi's flame trench, actually. So it can withstand much bigger forces, and yeah, that's required actually.
Absolutely. There's
Okay.
another question from Rich, but we're gonna cover that topic in
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We're gonna get back to Pad B, the Pad B question. I got a video from Vixie, and on this one, so the interesting thing about it is on the left-hand side, because it looks like they are moving some equipment from high bay, and that is telling. So sign of something.
Yeah, of course you can see the poor remainings of the remainings of the poor S-32 Starship, which was dismantled a couple of days or weeks ago. So it won't used, or it wasn't used at all. But which is more important, that as you can see, that this crane is getting out maybe a welding robot from the high bay, and it's a good sign, or it's an important sign that maybe this high bay will be dismantled as well, not so in the near future. Of course, there is no information when they will start the deconstruction, or the let's say demolishing of the building. But it's a good sign that if everything is packed out or taken out, then we can assume that the high base days are counted.
Mhm. Yep, because I think we talked about it previously, and most importantly, Felix was talking about it previously, that there is a plan for a much bigger bay in here, a giga bay maybe. So yeah, we will see definitely, but that's a first step, first sign
Yeah.
for the demolition of high bay. So yeah, we will keep an eye on it. Maybe that's a good moment to mention that you always should watch the What About It main channel and the episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays, because Felix is summing up all the happenings and events that's going on here in Starbase in Florida than we do. So that's a much better source of information. We just kind of covering whatever we can and not being covered in the main episodes. So yeah, definitely a way to go.
Okay, and maybe we can
Um,
go to the launch site, or
yep.
is there anything to be mentioned here? But yeah, I guess we
No.
are ready on the production side. So yeah, that's
Oh,
the launch site.
just
Oh, okay.
just one more thing. Sorry. So I've just seen this thing being shared not too long ago. So this is just an announcement that the residents of Starbase, Texas, will vote on Sunday, May the 3rd, 2025. To make Starbase its own independent city. So that's an interesting news or development. Tell us what you think. Is it going to become an independent city, or if I would be in London, a city? So yeah, we will see.
It's a shame it's not on the May the 4th.
All right. So Pet B, Pet A, Pet A. I don't know which one would you cover first.
Once we are here at the PadB, then we can start with it. So you can
Okay.
see, maybe we have already mentioned last week that the trench itself is done. So they have
Mhm.
dug every ground, or every dirt, let's better say. So it has already the deepest point, and you can see that the concrete pouring has begun, and now they are in the next phase, we can say. And next to the trench, you can see some elements which are the or yeah, they assume, or we assume, that they are for the ground systems covering, and the main structure, or the strengthening of these ground support equipments, because of course they have to have some defense against the
Mhm.
raptors, the rage of the raptors. So yeah, they are doing many things in parallel, and in the same time. But yeah, now the weather is a much better as compared to the last couple of weeks, so they could have a bigger progress, as for example in January, or even December last year. So yeah, you can see of course the chopsticks are already installed. The main, of course, the main structure is already on the tower, and they have finished already the pulley system. So they have just pulling through all of the cables, and they are finished with this phase as well. So, and I guess they have already installed the actuators as well. So
Mhm.
maybe we are not far from the first moving test of the chopsticks, of course, without any
Awesome.
loading. So just itself to they are lifted. They will lift and then it will come down as well, and of course opening and closing movements. But that will be a good point, because with that, if the chopsticks are ready, maybe they don't have to wait until the whole flame trench will be done or will be built, because they can go for the ship catch, of course, without the flame trench, but the chopsticks has to be done until that.
And once the chopsticks are ready, then there will be that long-awaited stress test of a chopstick that will remind everybody of something funny and something mega interesting.
The ball game,
So that's gonna be a good sign, and we can have a laughter then. But until then, let's go back to what's going on in here.
Okay, so the base of this air separation unit is already under construction, and the trench itself, which contains all of the tubes and lines and pipes, which are coming from the tank farm. Then this is already finished, and they are in good progress from this point of view. So but of course there are still some work left, but maybe they will be finished in the next couple of months. So that's a good sign that they are making a good progress here.
So this is where the air separation unit is going to be, right?
Not, but from where this this
to the
can
right?
you zoom in a bit? No, in the very in the middle.
Somewhere here?
Around that, yeah.
Okay.
But it's hard to say because there is nothing constructed yet, but that's the base, I guess.
There's something going on in here, but it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. Okay, but somewhere here, definitely.
Around
somewhere around
that area,
here.
yes.
Okay, cool.
And just a couple of sentences about pad A. So it's under maintenance or under refurbishment. So they are preparing it for the flight already, because of course, as you mentioned, the booster static fire has done, of course. So but maybe there is nothing too much left, and in the next couple of weeks, maybe the booster 15 can roll out here, and they can put on the OLM, and they will finish the last couple of let's say work points, and after it the ship can join to the party, let's say. And of course we don't know when they can be launched, but hopefully we are within 1 month, but just an estimate.
Cool. Okay, so they are definitely progressing with it, it, and that's a good one.
And sorry, just one more interesting thing, that at Florida, or at the Cape Canaveral, they are preparing, or they are already loading some more tanks. So as far as we know, they have loaded, or they just prepared for transportation 6 big tanks, and maybe they are already for the air separation unit, because of course these new tanks will just not replace, but just adding to this big tank farm, and they will just handle, or they will just containing that nitrogen and that oxygen which is coming from the air separation unit. So they will be handled separate, and that's the big tank farm what you can see in the middle of the launch site. But there will be some other tanks, maybe next to the tank farm, or totally at not the same spot, but here at the corner at the beginning of the launch site. So we don't know yet, but there are some basement here prepared as well for the tanks. So we are not sure where these new tanks will get, or have these new places, but as far as we know, that there are 6 tanks prepared for barge loading, and they will join a couple of weeks later here to the launch site, and then we will see how this whole story will end. So that was another different or interesting thing from Florida as well.
Okay, I got 2 more photos before we turn onto the Robert Zubrin topic. So one is a nice render. So this is how it's gonna look like when Starship is going to go a little bit further away from Earth. This is going to look amazing. I think I can say it in everybody's name that it's everybody's opinion that this is going to be absolutely mind-boggling. The other one I found is from this company called HEO, and they have satellites, and they keep on taking. So these satellites are, I forgot what's the orbiting altitude, but they definitely are above the International Space Station and the Chinese Space Station. And this particular photo was taken about the Chinese space station from above. And that's why it's interesting because usually from the ground, us amateurs, we are taking photos, but it's so unusual perspective to see the Chinese space station from above. So I just thought I'm gonna pull it into this conversation because I find it interesting. Right. On the weekend, okay, so we're gonna talk about Robert Zubrin a little bit because on the weekend, this
Sorry,
is a
there is.
video.
Don't forget the other question
Oh, the
about the
question.
OLMB.
Yes. Yeah, go for it.
So Rich PL1, if I don't butcher your name. So any idea when the OLM for PADB will be rolled out to the launch site? Very short no.
Yeah.
But of course, it's still under construction, and there are some scaffolding still around the whole structure. So they are still they are not ready with it, and especially they are working inside of the new OLM. So that's why it's hard to tell where they are in the progress. But yeah, when if they want to use the PAD-B around summer or beginning of autumn, then the rollout should happen in a couple of weeks, or let's say maximum in April. Otherwise, they won't be ready until end of summer.
Okay. If you have any questions regarding to the show, please let us know in the chat, and one of us definitely gonna pay attention. Okay.
That's why we are here too, not only you or me or Sam.
Okay, so on the weekend we've been on a conference, and on this conference there's this Hungarian company who's going to launch a couple of things to low Earth orbits, and they're gonna use the exploration company, which we had an interesting interview, which is coming out like in a week or so to our Space Junkie channel in English. So we will mention it next week if it's done by then. But the most important thing that Dr. Robert Zubrin was invited to this conference, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. Thanks for the technology, he could have a lovely talk with us and a lovely presentation via Zoom call. So he talked a couple of things, and we just thought that it's worth mentioning because I think he has some very good points related to the Starship program, related to the Artemis program, and I think this is what we will trying to share with you in the next half an hour or so. So let's begin, because there is always a question about whether we should go to the moon and to the Mars, or should we just focus on Earth because Earth is plan A and we should save Earth and so on and so forth. And this is our natural habitat. And I really liked the key thought that he's mentioning that Earth is in general not our natural habitat. So life evolved in the Kenyan Rift Valley, and that was basically our natural habitat. And because of technology like fire, like clothing, knowledge of architecture that we can build in a life for ourselves, not just in an ideal place, but anywhere basically in the planet, or the hunting tools to get food in places where we cannot find berries and fruits, the language, let's say, to form a technology to organize large hunting, I don't know, gatherings, or as science and society evolved eventually. So these technologies made basically possible that humans can exist in the planet and not just in an ideal place where food is ready and temperature is all right. So that's just to begin with, because we are going to another celestial body or bodies which are completely not hospitable for human life or any life in general. And because of technology, we can use the same analogy that this is why we are actually going out to other planets and conquer it. And it's not just because this is going to be a paradise for millionaires. This is not going to be a paradise. This is going to be a safe haven for our species. Maybe everybody heard this rumor about this asteroid that might impact Earth in 2032. And now there is, I think the chance of it hitting Earth is gone up like from 1.5% to like 2 point something percent, which is it's a threat. And I think a lot of people saying it's not an if, it's a when Earth is going to hit by a piece of rock that might just disturb life on the planet. So this is just for the beginning, because I think this is key to understand what's the inspiration basically for these plans are. So we got this new Trump administration, which we covered in the previous episodes before, and just to know about that, Elon Musk in the inauguration speech or after, he mentioned, quote, "We will plant." No, I think that was yeah. No, that was President Trump. That we will plant stars and stripes on the red planet. That's the goal in this by the end of this administration. So so everything what I'm gonna say is basically the thoughts of Robert Zubrin, and he wrote an article about it, so anybody can read this. So according to Robert Zubrin, NASA is the government agency which should lead such an endeavor, but currently is just not competent enough to do so. And I think we covered that, right, David? That the Trump administration is trying to change NASA as an administration, as a space
Right.
agency.
Yeah, and that's why
So,
Trump nominated Jared Isaacman. Of course, it's not official yet because it was the inaugural. It wasn't so. Isaacman didn't take the office yet, but I guess he will be the next administrator, and it will have a great chance to change the background of the NASA, because maybe it's requiring.
yeah, we will see. Definitely, that's
Yeah.
the hope.
Mhm.
So Musk's SpaceX Starship launch system will be operational hopefully soon. So as we know, it will hopefully offer payload delivery capability comparable to the mighty Saturn V rocket, moon rocket, at about 5% of the cost, which is a shocking number, to be honest, that finally it's gonna come to a sustainable level. But unlike Apollo, Artemis is not really a purpose-driven program. I really like this thought. It is a vendor-driven program. So Apollo spend money in order to do things like putting humans on the moon and do some sort of science, but Artemis is doing these things in order to spend money. So, which is completely the opposite purpose of doing something. So SpaceX is far more competent than NASA in terms of reaching Mars, yet it should not go ahead in a Mars mission alone. It's basically NASA needs to be leading in this effort, because America should go to Mars and not just a private entity, an enterprise. And I think I can resonate with this completely. So NASA should be fixed. And hopefully, with this administration, we hope that there is a tendency that's gonna point towards this direction. And as David mentioned quite rightly, Jared Isaacman is going to be appointed soon, and the work gonna start. I urge you to watch the previous episode, which we did last week, because we highlighted some major flaws within NASA, and how wrong the whole culture is when it comes to rocket technologies and Artemis program and all these flaws basically. So Zubrin explains how the current Artemis program just tailored together, cobbled together basically, and these elements they don't really fit together. So you have like elements like the SLS rocket, and then you have the Orion spacecraft, then you have the HLS Starship, then we have the national team, lunar lander, and the lunar gateway station. And when you try to fit them together like a puzzle, they kind of don't match because they not build towards one rule of thought, but instead they were just like giving money to
Small
certain.
pieces separate
Exactly.
from each other, and and you have to just think about the Saturn V again. So how it was designed, how it was built.
Yep. Yep, definitely. Because Saturn V had a focus that it had
Yes.
a couple of stages. There is one lunar lander that lands to the moon and can come back. But I will describe in detail that why it's problematic. So first and foremost, the SLS launch vehicle's upper stage is the wrong size for its lower stage. The Orion capsule is simply just too heavy for the SLS to deliver into low lunar orbit with enough propellant to come home, even by itself, which is crazy, let alone with the lunar excursion vehicle added. So let's not forget that the design changed from one powerful engine to four less powerful engines. They don't really add up with the same amount of trust. So with the 1B version, I think they are going to have an upper stage with four engines instead of now they are using one engine.
Yes.
And that's just not gonna work. The SpaceX Starship makes both SLS and basically the Orion capsule completely unnecessary, but they must be used by all the missions anyway to make their makers happy. Let's not forget that the nation's rocket, you remember, is a very, very successful job creation project. I think we were banging on about it a couple of times because that's just the way to spend money and not to actually build something technologically up to the 21st century. It's basically the STS system without the shuttle and just expanded with the Orion capsule, and that's it. The SLS project have a launch rate of only one in every year or every other year, compared to the average two launches per year of the Apollo program's Saturn V. So the Starship would be an excellent choice for Artemis's primary launch vehicle, but NASA did not obviously assigned, as we know, to that role. And to be fair, I totally understand it because Starship basically had and still have a relatively big question mark above his imaginary head because it's not ready yet, right? And when they chose
Yes.
the rocket to go to the moon, SLS was kind of in a the parts and the idea was already
Much more into the
existing.
development, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, then Artemis program was designed around 2017,
Hmm.
and Starship wasn't in the picture at all. So
Nothing. Yeah.
just a very, very small, or not very small, but couple of details only, but no hardware, no testing, no Starbase, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
of
just think.
course they couldn't have a choice, so that the SLS was only the one and only choice.
Yeah, I think it was only 4 years ago in January when SN9 happened. I think Am I correct? I
Yes,
think I think 4 years,
yes.
something like that. Yeah, it's been 4 years. I
Yeah,
mean,
4
four
years
years
because
ago.
because
Yeah.
SM15 was the last one in that period, and it was in May 2021. Yeah.
So no OLM, or just maybe the foundation of the
Yeah, maybe
wrong
the legs.
OLM.
I guess the legs were already installed, but that was all.
So to give any hope of it being ready in time, it was a little bit over optimistic at that time. Anyway, so if we go along, instead it will be used to land 100-ton dry mass. I mean Starship to the moon's surface, and some argue that it will make the use of HLS seriously suboptimal compared to the Apollo's LEM, the Lunar Excursion Model, which had 2-ton ascent stage. So it's a good question. That is there any point of doing that you are landing 100-ton vehicle to the moon, and it takes so much energy to bring it back, and to refill it, and so on and so forth. If you remember, NASA awarded SpaceX with the contract to build the lunar lander called HLS, for $2.9 billion over the national team's proposal, which offered less capability for twice the money, precisely $5.9 billion. But using the national team's members' political power, and let's just remember the members, so like Blue Origin and Lockheed Martin and Draper Labs and of course Boeing. Boeing cannot be left out from any of these projects, so they successfully lobbied to get a slice of this pie. So they got one for themselves, which is a $3.4 billion contract to build another lander. But instead of using the primary vehicle's methane oxygen propellant, so using a Metalox engine, they went for a hydrogen oxygen version, so a Hydrolox engine. And according to Zubrin, this makes absolutely no zero sense. It's just pointless. Why? Because if the national team had chosen the Metalox engine too, it could have been refuelable, and then I quote, the national team lander could have operated as a refillable small ferry, taking the astronauts down to and up from the lunar surface from the tanker ship stationed in low lunar orbit. This would have increased the number of lunar exploration shorties, he just called it shorties, supportable per Starship launch by an order of magnitude. So let's be frank, this is just politics once again at its best. So Lunar Gateway again is totally unnecessary and costs billions of dollars. This station adds basically nothing to the Artemis program's overall capability. If the mission is being done using Starship as a landing and ascending system, the lunar mission will require something like 14 Starship launches to support a single shorty. Again, like a shorty means from lunar orbit to down to the moon and back. So a single shorty to the lunar surface. If it must go there via Gateway, but then only 10 if the mission planners are allowed to ignore it. So, do you think that
Kind of
Gateway,
interesting.
do you think that Gateway gonna survive this? Honestly,
No.
it can't. It can't.
With these
Yeah.
terms, no. And it's totally unnecessary from my point of view. So it would nice it would be nice then the humanity will have let's say a kind of ISS 2.0 around the moon. But currently, in terms of the architecture, it doesn't make any sense, and it's totally waste of money, waste of resources, waste of human resources as well, because they could do totally different projects as well. But somehow, NASA is still intends to build this strange space station.
There's a question from Stephen Lewis. How many times could you launch Starship for every SLS with a dollar with the S's, SLS launch. So SLS launch is 2.2 billion plus 600 million per launch.
Let's remain in about on
Almost
2.2 billion. And
yeah, but it's a
that's
cost as well.
okay, but
pad,
only
which
the
they need to
rocket,
build.
only the rocket and the launch. Of course, there is the
Okay.
mobile launch tower, but that's why I'm just comparing the two rockets. So 2.2 billions, and currently the Starship is around 100 million. So as I answered it already, it's 22 times. And
At the current
in
rate.
currently, yeah, and with time, Starship will be even less expensive when it will be, on one hand, of course, operational, on the other hand, reusable. So it will take down the costs even better. So the difference will be even bigger between SLS and Starship. Of course, when Starship will, SLS survive it at all, because the ground under SLS is not it's not very fixed currently, if I can say that. So yeah, these next couple of months will be very interesting, because the new leadership of NASA has to decide quite big questions or ways how to go and where to go, because neither SLS nor Lunar Gateway can remain as it is currently.
SLS is in vertigo. Okay, that was a time for a joke. So, so Mars mission, and this is the point I think when it becomes when Zubrin's idea becomes extremely interesting, and I really like it. So let me highlight it for you, and you will tell us in the chat or later in the comment that what you think about it. So Mars mission. Starship launched with 100 tons of cargo, let's say from Earth. Then in low Earth orbit, he mentions 6 refilling missions. I don't know how feasible that is, but let's just stick with it for now. That means 600 tons of propellant. That's what you need for Starship to get to Mars. Then it will leave, and basically for a 6-month journey. And then, although Musk have been promoting Starship capable of taking 100 people, Zubrin's idea is that it's completely unnecessary. So instead of that, according to Zubrin, 20 people would be completely sufficient. So all crew lands, so no vehicle remains in orbit, no risk of missed rendezvous on Mars orbit during coming home. Despite the advantage of the huge amount of cargo and the human exploration basically on the ground, because they're gonna do groundbreaking science, we can assume that Starship as a temporary home for astronauts, it can be left there or being used. There are absolutely serious disadvantages. So the Starship is way too heavy to serve as an optimal ascent vehicle. It sounds a little bit similar to the Lunar Gate, the HLS version choice or example, so that's no surprise. By a rough estimate, to make 600 metric tons of propellant that will be required to refuel the Starship once on Mars within a year or year and a half would require a power source with an average round-the-clock output of 600 kilowatts. So the solar array that could do that would cover 60,000 square meters. That's about 13 football fields in terms of size. And the weight is about 240 metric tons. So this solar array equipment would require 3 Starship cargo missions. Then obviously it needs to be deployed. It needs to be kept clean, and probably
Yes,
that's a
it's a good point.
massive, absolutely good point. I think me as an amateur astronomer, I know exactly that every now and then there is a global scale dust storm on Mars that covers the whole planet. And
Yeah,
if you
but of
need an
course, yeah, sorry.
yep, sorry. No, go for it.
So maybe you all, or most of you have seen the movie Martian. Of course, you don't have to imagine that sandstorm because it's unreal. So you don't have to imagine
That's
that.
just
But
Hollywood, yeah.
yeah, that's Hollywood. Okay, so keeping that by them. But there are dust storms for sure on Mars, and that's why it's a very difficult to keep these solar farm actually clean enough to generate enough power for a Starship.
Yeah, yeah, and this is just for the fuel. Obviously, if you want to have something like hosting a base with electricity, then that's just not gonna do the job. And it needs to, again, around the clock, it needs to be operating for about a year and a half to produce that 600 metric tons of propellant for this scale Starship to come home. So he also points out that there is a more practical way of actually using a nuclear power reactor design, but at this power level, it requires a mass of 10 tons. For this plan, the government needs to be obviously involved because this nuclear reactor, if they go with this idea, that it needs plutonium or highly enriched uranium. And as of yet, you cannot just walk into a shop or call up a company and say, can I have like 10 tons, for instance, of plutonium or highly enriched uranium? So at the moment, that's not a viable option. The option that he says, and I think I think I heard it from him for the first time. It's probably my fault, but he kept on promoting a vehicle called Starboat. So basically, he says that there is another way to mitigate this energy problem, and it's basically if they if there is a huge reduction in terms of the amount of propellant needed, um, and that's probably this new design, the Starboat. This could be a vehicle of similar type to the current SpaceX Starship, but obviously scaled down by about a factor of 5 in mass. And I find it absolutely interesting. It could do a direct return from Mars surface to Earth using 120 tons. So this, instead of 600 tons, 120 tons of propellant to perform a low Mars orbit rendezvous using just 50 tons. So come home 120, going just to low Mars orbit, 50 tons of propellant. And if there's let's say a single tanker on low Mars orbit, then probably it could support like 5 more refills of this Starboat. It could also be lifted to Earth orbit, fully refueled by a single Starship and sent directly to Mars with 5 tons of cargo without any Earth orbit refueling, or 25 tons of cargo with a single tanker refueling. This would eliminate the problem of needing to launch 7 Starships. There is some inconsistency because he only mentioned 6 previously, but it went up to 7. But why? Because obviously it is the mission vehicle plus the 6 tankers within a single launch window as it required by SpaceX plan. Yeah, so I think that's one way of doing that, and it would be nice to see what, let's say, the SpaceX engineers really think about that. Obviously, the crew size would have been reduced from 20 to 4 or 5, and that might be well appropriate for initial missions, and that will need to be conducted before all the base infrastructure is up and running. Alternatively, instead of putting a tanker in low Mars orbit, Starship fully fitted out for crew could be stationed there, and also Starboat only employed as a reusable shuttle between, let's say, the surface and orbit. In that case, the plant could retain the ability to employ 20% crews, as they could ride out and land Mars along with 100 tons of freight and on a standard Starship, and only need to accept the closer quarters on a smaller vehicle during a short Mars to orbit flight on a return leg. So I don't know. Tell us what you think about it. And one more interesting thing that he mentioned in this presentation, and it's basically the delta V required to go to the moon and to Mars, which is, I was surprised, it's actually similar. So going to moon doesn't have an atmosphere, so it requires 2 kilometers per second delta V to land on it. There is no atmosphere that helps you to slow down, and 2 kilometers per second delta V to again come back to low moon orbit. And to get to Mars, it actually requires 0 delta V to land. Well, almost 0, because
Almost, yeah.
you need a little bit to land the vehicle, but obviously you have atmosphere and it can slow down the vehicle just like on Earth. And to take off, that requires 3.8 kilometers per second delta V. So this tiny little vehicle could actually do the job, and I kind of get it why he's proposing this idea. But again, what SpaceX would say about this, that's another story.
Yeah, and if you remember, at that time around 2015, 16, there was a plan of the Red Dragon, and that's because of the red planet. So SpaceX wanted to develop a quite small, or let's say a Crew Dragon B version for the Mars missions. But yeah, they have skipped this because of Starship. So I don't know whether they will turn back to this plan, because these how does Zubrin call it, spaceboat, or starboat, sorry.
Starboat.
So it would have big chances, or it would make sense to have a much smaller vehicle to make these small trips or short trips between orbit and surface and back to orbit, because the Starship is a very nice and a huge interplanetary transportation vehicle, but that's the key word, interplanetary, and it's not designed for landing or ascending again, because of the mentioned energy requirements and of course propellant requirements. So I don't know, or we don't know, of course, whether the SpaceX has in the very background some of the plans that they will develop a smaller vehicle to make these shorter legs. But yeah, maybe the Starship won't be used for these very big plans to make it real in one, or how to do so. Not how to say it. So not only the Starship will use it to have these plans make real. Okay, so currently the focus is of course on Starship, because the financial goal is based on the Starship program, and that's because of the Starlink program. And now they focus only on Starship, but after it will be operational, maybe they can turn their efforts or focus on a smaller vehicle which can do the job even better as a Starship in terms of the Mars missions, or at least the Mars descending and ascending phases. So yeah, it's of course it's not the very near future. Let's say it's around 2030s or 40s, but at least maybe they can listen to Zubrin's plan, or let's say recommendation, because they could use not totally the same one, but just a part of it.
Yep, definitely. I was always a little bit I had an inner conflict in myself, because I can and we covered this before, but I can absolutely see that why expendable vehicles are good for going, let's say, to moon, because it's just a straightforward solution. You have a couple of stages. You have a dedicated, just like in Apollo times, you have a dedicated vehicle which can land, come back. They do docking, they come back and land. Easy peasy. The same thing won't work with Mars. Mars is just too far away.
Mhm.
And at some point you need to take some cargo with you, and then as soon as you have a large vehicle, it needs to be refueled. And with this current technology we have, I have a feeling that there's a massive boundary, because the energy density of even methane is crap compared to when it comes to nuclear power.
Mhm.
Be- be- and as long as we're not solving to have the problem that you have an engine that can do so much more efficient work, you need to carry the liquid propellant around the moon, and what's worse, even around Mars. And that just makes everything way too complicated. And if something goes wrong, then you are soup. You're done. That's it. There's no way back. It's not like Moon, and Moon is not close either. But Mars is a totally different story. So it's nice, and I'm so happy that finally we're talking about going to Mars, and that's in the realm of possibilities. But in the same time, we need to come up with something better, and even Zubrin is talking about nuclear power, and now a lot of people are actually talking about nuclear power, because without it, or with some sort of new, I don't know, solution. Okay, this diagram doesn't work. Some sort of new solution, because without that, there's no way we can do this feasibly. Because yeah, with Starship you can do that, but it's just so damn difficult. And I kind of understand why a lot of people are doubting the viability of even these kind of plans. But I hope, they do, and this will be a catalyst, and then newer ideas will come to the surface, and then eventually we can progress towards those, using nuclear power only in space and for deep space missions. That would be nice, if it happens in our lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, in my opinion, we are still very far from a usable
Mhm.
nuclear thruster or engine,
Engine.
let's say, or
Mhm.
of course a spaceship itself, because maybe it's not a surprise that we couldn't use it from the ground or from the Earth, because yeah, it's not good for health, let's say. So it could be used only for from low Earth orbit or higher orbits, let's say, but from the Earth.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the good point, there are already some development projects from different companies. So at least something has begun. But
Mhm.
everybody is still very far from a usable and a reliable nuclear engine. But yeah, we will see when or who will be the first one which who can develop the first engine, because it will be a game changer, of course. And then the chemical engines will go to the dust, or I don't know when where, but
To a better place.
to the better place. Yeah, so of course they will be used still from the ground, from the Earth, but
Yeah.
the deep space missions will totally change. And it's a good point, it will be a good change, but yeah, we are very far from it.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, we definitely need to focus on the moon. Hopefully, this new administration gonna do those steps that needs to be done in terms of achieving these goals. Because moon is a perfect practice ground. Not perfect because because it's still different. The fact that it doesn't have an atmosphere and Mars does, it makes already a huge difference in terms of how you land and what kind of technologies you are actually using for that. But still, I believe that they're gonna start doing it in parallel. So I think SpaceX is going to already, probably they're already doing the developments for the missions towards Mars, and they're not gonna wait for the moon successes and
Sure.
then there's no way. I think at the maybe next the net maybe not the next launch window, but probably the one after. They definitely gonna launch Starships. I mean, just look back how long the Starship program evolved since I don't know, in the past 2 years, let's say. I mean,
Yeah.
and from now on, once they are on orbit, that's a totally different story. Then probably they can
Once the
start doing
orbit,
the meaningful stuff. Yeah.
first the orbit, then of course the orbital refueling, that will be a key point as well. So if they can do it successful, then it one big question mark is solved.
Yep. Yep. That's definitely gonna be necessary for any further achievements. Okay, let this be the final word for this show. I hope you like this topic. We try to bring you in a listenable form, but we will upload our video with Robert Zubrin. It's gonna be like a 45-minute version, and he explains it so much better than I think I did. But it's gonna be great. You will hear, and I give an absolute sort of thrust trust
Frost and trust.
yeah, in Mars with thrust. So definitely I like the idea, and I would go with that. And I think probably the SpaceX team should just listen at least with half an ear or one ear to what he has to offer for the future. And I read this article in length. He goes into the details. So yeah, that's interesting. If you like the show, definitely smash the like button, destroy it if you can. And then obviously subscribe to this channel, just like to the main channel. Watch the latest episode about the Falcon 9 legs and the landing capability and Starship. It's I think, in my opinion, one of the best episodes I've ever seen on What About It. So definitely watch it. And if you like it, come back next week. We will be here, hopefully. Nothing will prevent our presence. And then up until then, really have a lovely week. Enjoy the rest of the week. Watch all the content that the What About It family has to offer to you. And just enjoy the week. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Yeah, as Szabi mentioned, all the best for the rest of the week. Of course, it has only begun. So see you next Monday and take care.
See you
And
guys.
thanks for your
Ciao.
kind attention as always. Bye bye.
Ciao. 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 Have a good week.